The ability to have somebody who is kind of epitomizes what you think your country stands for has always been a major ambition.
Many people who follow the royal family often see Princess Anne as one of the most private and direct members of the royal household. But now, new reports are causing a stir, claiming that Princess Anne has brought forward a secret financial document that could change everything involving Camilla. So why is it causing such a major reaction from Prince William? And how could this decision affect the relationships inside the royal family going forward? Now, what do you think about Prince William's reported decision? Is it the right move for the stability of the monarchy? Or is there more to the story than what is being said? Share your thoughts in the comments section. And to stay updated with more royal news and breaking stories like this, make sure you subscribe. The Hidden Royal Document. Inside Gatcombe Park, Princess Anne's private office was wrapped in an intense silence. It felt so heavy that it was almost uncomfortable, as if even the walls were quietly watching her every move. Outside, there was no wind or rain to break the stillness. Only the quiet pressure of duty and royal responsibility sat firmly on the shoulders of Queen Elizabeth II's only daughter. Anne sat motionless at her polished black oak desk. Her hands were neatly folded on the cold surface. Her eyes were fixed on one object in front of her, an old black wooden box. It looked simple, but it carried a powerful and almost threatening presence. This box held what was considered the most dangerous final inheritance from the late Queen. For months, Anne had watched in silence as Camilla Parker Bowles slowly increased her influence. She saw palace staff being quietly reshuffled, trusted long-serving aides removed, and King Charles being subtly guided in important decisions. But Anne's silence was not a weakness. It was patience, carefully controlled, like someone waiting for the exact right moment to act. Inside the black box was a document known as the Silent Covenant. It was a highly secret legal agreement created shortly before Charles and Camilla married, during a time when many people still strongly opposed their relationship, both publicly and within the church. Queen Elizabeth, known for her sharp judgment, had never fully trusted Camilla's intentions. She believed that while love may have brought Camilla into the royal circle, ambition was what truly drove her. Because of this, the Queen had prepared a final safeguard, a strict legal condition that Camilla either did not fully understand or had chosen to ignore in her confidence. Anne slowly reached out and touched the lid of the box. The cold wood reminded her of the weight of responsibility she was carrying. She lifted it open. Inside were old documents with yellowed edges, each stamped with Queen Elizabeth's red seal. The covenant clearly stated that Camilla could only keep the title of Queen Consort if she followed strict rules. She had to respect royal values, avoid interfering in government affairs, and most importantly, never act in a way that could threaten the direct line of succession, especially Prince William and his immediate family. Next to the covenant were confidential intelligence reports that had arrived that same morning. These reports confirmed everything. They showed clear signs that Camilla had, knowingly or not, set events in motion that could lead to her own downfall. As Anne read through the pages, each line felt like a heavy strike against the reputation of the Windsor family. One detail stood out in particular. Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's son, who had long benefited from his mother's royal position, had been secretly meeting a group of controversial media consultants in a hidden London location. The contents of those meetings were so harsh and damaging that they left Anne deeply disturbed. How did she address it? Was she also harsh? Let's take a closer look. Princess Anne's warning to Camilla. Camilla's group had reportedly been working on a major plan to damage Princess Kate's image. While Kate was away from public duties because of health issues, they planned to spread false rumors about her mental health. Their goal was to make people believe that Kate was emotionally unstable and unable to handle her responsibilities as a mother or future queen. By doing this, they hoped to weaken Prince William's reputation as well. The larger plan was becoming clear. They wanted to weaken the Prince of Wales, make King Charles rely more heavily on Camilla, and eventually give her real political power behind the scenes. What started as palace tension had now turned into something far more serious. It was no longer an ordinary royal rivalry. It had become a carefully planned political attack and a betrayal of the fragile trust that had been given to Camilla. In Anne's eyes, Camilla had crossed a dangerous line. She had threatened the future of the monarchy, represented by William and young George. Anne realized that staying silent any longer would make her partly responsible. With determination, she shut the file with a loud snap that echoed through the quiet room. Her eyes showed the firm focus of someone ready to take action. The time had come to use the legal strategy left behind by her mother. The first step would be a carefully planned media move designed to trap the opponent before delivering a final and permanent judgment. Princess Anne's decision to speak to the nation on television was not made suddenly. It was part of a carefully prepared strategy. She purposely chose the moment when the first online rumors about Kate were beginning to spread, making her appearance an early attempt to stop the gossip before it could grow stronger. The interview took place in a private sitting room at St. James's Palace, a setting full of history and tradition that sharply contrasted with the glamorous style Camilla was said to prefer. Anne sat in a soft velvet chair with perfect posture, her hands calmly resting on her knees. She carried the quiet authority expected from the daughter of a monarch. She did not need expensive clothing or sparkling jewelry to show her importance. The strength in her eyes and the calm confidence in her voice already carried enough power. When the interviewer asked about the future of the monarchy and the duties of senior royals, Anne answered immediately. Her words sounded calm, but their meaning was powerful and severe. She first honored the values Queen Elizabeth had always defended: honesty, dedication to duty, and putting the country before personal interests. But slowly, her tone became sharper as she spoke about growing threats. Looking directly into the camera, as if speaking to Camilla herself, Anne declared firmly, "The crown is not a tool for personal ambition. My mother left clear instructions to protect the stability of the monarchy and the future of the heir. Anyone, no matter how important, who acts against these principles or harms the heir's family will face serious consequences. No one is above accountability, and no position is beyond challenge." Her statement immediately shocked both the public and members of the royal circle. Even though Anne never mentioned anyone by name, everyone understood who the warning was aimed at. It was a direct public message to Camilla. So how did Camilla respond in return? Was it in the same tune as Anne? Let's find out. Camilla's escalating anger. Inside the palace, Camilla reacted with wild and uncontrollable anger. Hidden away in her luxurious private rooms, she exploded in fury, throwing expensive decorations across the room. The sound of breaking china and shattered glass echoed through the apartment as she screamed in rage, turning the once elegant space into complete chaos. Her anger did not come from guilt. Instead, she was furious that someone had finally dared to challenge her openly. After years of privilege and King Charles constantly protecting her, Camilla had started to believe she was untouchable and beyond criticism. She barked orders at her terrified staff, demanding an immediate call with King Charles. She wanted him to step in at once and force Anne into silence. In her emotional state, Camilla angrily accused Anne of being jealous. She claimed Anne was trying to ruin her brother's happiness out of bitterness and spite. But Camilla failed to realize that her frantic and emotional behavior was only exposing the deep insecurity she tried so hard to hide. Instead of reflecting on her actions, Camilla chose to escalate the conflict even further. Quietly, she reached out to Tom Parker Bowles and the group allegedly behind the media attacks, ordering them to intensify their campaign against Kate. Consumed by revenge, she gave cold and ruthless instructions. Paint that girl as unstable. Show the world that William is weak and powerless. Camilla believed the royal family would collapse under the pressure of scandal, and she was convinced that an aggressive campaign would strengthen her control and position. But in doing so, She badly underestimated Anne's determination. Her reckless reaction did not make her stronger. Instead, it gave Anne the final evidence she needed to complete the legal case that would eventually lead to Camilla's downfall. Meanwhile, the meeting King Charles arranged with Princess Anne took place under an atmosphere filled with heavy tension inside his private office at Buckingham Palace. The grand room, lined with portraits of past monarchs, only made Charles appear smaller and more isolated at that moment. He paced nervously across the room with his hands behind his back, his face showing exhaustion, worry, and emotional strain. The fierce public reaction to Anne's televised comments, combined with Camilla's tears, accusations, and emotional pressure throughout the previous night, had left him mentally and emotionally drained. When Anne entered the room, calm and composed as always, Charles immediately lost control of his emotions. He turned toward her sharply, his voice trembling with frustration and desperation. "Anne, do you even understand what you've done? You've created a media storm inside our own family. The whole world is talking about division within this household. You've humiliated me, humiliated the Queen, and damaged the reputation of the monarchy." Anne remained completely calm, her eyes fixed steadily on her brother. Standing before her was not the strong and dignified king he was supposed to be, but a man overwhelmed by emotion and denial. She answered in a calm but cutting tone. "I have shamed no one, Charles. The person staining this family's name is the woman you continue to defend. I did not speak to create conflict. I spoke to prevent disaster. I am trying to protect you from your own refusal to see the truth." Charles slammed his hand against the desk in anger, scattering papers everywhere. "Refusal to see the truth? You call my loyalty and patience blindness? Camilla is my wife, the queen of this realm. She has endured years of hostility and unfair treatment. Why can't you and the rest of the family simply leave her alone? Why do you insist on bringing back old grudges and inventing conspiracies that do not exist?" "Does it exist?" Anne replied with a cold, bitter smile. "Do you honestly believe the endless attacks on Kate in the press are simply a coincidence? Do you truly think the rumors about William's supposed affairs and Kate's alleged instability appeared out of nowhere?" She paused before delivering her harshest words. "You may wear the crown, Charles, but your fear of loneliness has blinded your judgment. You are protecting a dangerous influence inside this palace simply because she flatters you and tells you exactly what you want to hear. Could this affect Anne and King Charles' closeness? How did Charles handle the situation? Let's find out." Charles and Anne's argument. Charles became quiet and avoided Anne's sharp stare. Deep inside, doubts had already begun to grow in his mind. He was not blind to what was happening. He understood Camilla's ambitions and knew very well how manipulative her son could be. But he was afraid to face the truth. Admitting that Camilla was capable of such betrayal would also mean admitting that his lifelong devotion to her had been a terrible mistake. Over the years, Camilla had carefully convinced him that the two of them were alone against the world, making Charles depend on her more and more emotionally. "Open your eyes, Charles," Anne continued as she stepped closer. Her voice was quieter now, but filled with even stronger conviction. "You are allowing an ambitious woman to manipulate the throne and influence the future of this nation. Mother saw this danger coming. Have you forgotten the covenant you once signed? Or has your obsession erased the promise you made beside Mother's coffin?" The moment Anne mentioned the covenant, Charles's face lost all color. Trying to regain control, he held tightly to what remained of his authority. "I will not allow you to speak of that," he said sharply. "I order you to stop this immediately. You will publicly apologize to Camilla and take back everything you said. I want peace, Anne. I want this family to stay united." "Real unity cannot be built on lies and betrayal, Charles," Anne replied firmly, her face calm but determined. "I will not apologize, and I will not back down. If you refuse to act as a father who protects his daughter-in-law, a grandfather who defends his grandchildren, and a king who safeguards the future heir, then I will take on that responsibility myself. Do not call me cruel. Your weakness has given me no other choice." With those final words, Anne turned and walked out of the room, leaving Charles alone in the massive chamber. Fear slowly settled deep inside his chest. Charles knew his sister well. Anne never spoke without a reason, and if she was acting with such fierce determination, then she must already possess something powerful in her hands, something whose consequences he could no longer escape. 2 days after their intense confrontation, Princess Anne returned once again to King Charles's private office. But this time, she had not come to argue or make peace. She had come to deliver judgment. Standing beside her were Sir Edward Young, the late Queen's most loyal private secretary, and 2 senior royal legal advisors whose serious expressions made the room feel more like a courtroom than a royal office. Their sudden and formal entrance made the atmosphere inside the king's study feel heavy and suffocating. Charles sat behind his desk, looking exhausted, as though the stress of the past few days had aged him many years. The moment he saw them enter, he realized that the moment he had feared could no longer be avoided. Without wasting time on greetings, Anne walked straight toward him and slammed 2 thick folders onto the polished desk. The loud sound echoed through the silent room. She remained standing there, her hands resting firmly on the files, her eyes locked on her brother with unwavering determination. "Your time is over, Charles. You must finally face the truth before you, no matter how painful it is," Anne declared coldly. She opened the first folder. Inside were the results of a secret but detailed investigation carried out by people loyal to Anne. "Look at this carefully," she said, as she flipped through the pages and pointed to the evidence. "These are not invented stories from reporters. These are recorded conversations of Tom Parker Bowles speaking with tabloid editors and negotiating prices for damaging articles. These documents also contain financial records showing payments from Camilla's hidden accounts to corrupt media organizations. What secret is hidden? Could it implicate Camilla? Let's find out." Princess Anne reveals the secret covenant. Anne turned to the last section of the file, showing direct email messages that contained cruel instructions sent from a private network inside Clarence House. "She is much more than a woman hungry for power, Charles. She is betraying this family," Anne said, her voice cold with disgust. "She has been secretly working against your heir. Her goal is to ruin Kate's reputation and emotionally break William so she can move closer to real power. She is willing to damage the future of the monarchy just to satisfy her need for control. Under the old laws of this kingdom, actions like this are considered betrayal." Charles picked up the documents with trembling hands. His eyes quickly scanned the numbers, the messages, and the clear evidence. The truth was now fully exposed before him, harsh and impossible to deny. The woman he had loved and defended for years, the woman he believed had been treated unfairly, had actually planned cruel attacks against his own son and daughter-in-law. A heavy tightness filled his chest as reality finally sank in. Anne then placed her hand on the second file, the one marked with Queen Elizabeth's crimson seal. "And this," she said softly, "is the document that will end all of this." She opened the original paper known as the Family Covenant. Mother expected this day might come. The agreement clearly says that if Camilla harms the heir or seriously damages the reputation of the crown, the ruling monarch must activate the removal clause. You personally signed this document, and I was chosen to make sure it is carried out. Anne pushed the covenant across the desk and pointed directly at the signature Charles had written years before. "You now have 2 choices, Charles. First, you can enforce this covenant yourself. Remove all her privileges and settle this matter quietly inside the palace while protecting what little dignity is left. Second, I release all the evidence to the public. I will show the nation how she plotted against your children and grandchildren. If that happens, the people will condemn her, and your reign will forever be remembered in shame." Charles sat completely still in his chair, sweat forming on his forehead. He knew Anne was completely serious. Her loyalty was to the crown and its future, not to emotions or personal attachment. Justice had been placed directly in front of him, and there was no way out. He had to choose between removing the dangerous influence that had entered his life or allowing it to spread further and threaten the future of the entire royal family. Just as the tension inside the study became almost unbearable, the large double doors suddenly burst open. Why is Anne trying to limit Camilla's influence? How does she plan to achieve it? Let's find out. Anne's plan to end Camilla's power. The secret room hidden deep inside Buckingham Palace was completely sealed off from the outside world. It was a private place where the future of a queen was decided with the cold and strict force of royal rules. There were no reporters and no public crowds, only the soft sound of pages being turned and the nervous breathing of the people in the room. Anne sat at the head of the table, fully in control of everything happening. Across from her sat Charles, looking completely broken, with Camilla beside him. Camilla now looked like a hollow shadow of herself. Her face had lost all color, and her eyes seemed empty and lifeless. The fierce confidence she had shown only minutes earlier had completely vanished. Anne placed an official document on the table. Its title clearly read, "Plan for the Removal of Authority and Restriction of Royal Privileges." Anne did not want to remove Camilla through a public scandal or a dramatic divorce because she knew such chaos could harm the monarchy she was trying to protect. Instead, Anne chose a far more careful and much crueler punishment, a quiet but complete destruction of Camilla's power. Following Anne's strict orders, Sir Edward began reading the decree out loud. Every sentence sounded like another cut removing Camilla's remaining influence. The first punishment was a complete and immediate financial restriction. At Anne's command, Sir Edward called Coutts Bank and ordered an instant freeze on Camilla's personal spending. She could no longer use shared royal money, write checks, buy expensive luxury items, or pay for extravagant family trips. From that moment on, every amount she spent would be carefully watched and would require direct approval from Princess Anne's office. The woman who once spent money freely without worrying about cost was now left completely dependent on others, forced to ask permission even for small expenses. The next step was removing all her access to important information and political influence. Anne ordered all security passes and secret access codes to be cancelled immediately. Camilla was officially banned from receiving the famous red boxes, the traditional sign of government authority. Most importantly, she lost her position as Counselor of State. This meant that if Charles could not perform his duties, authority would pass directly to William and Anne, completely cutting Camilla out. She was left powerless and isolated from the workings of the kingdom, with no ability to influence its future. The final and most emotionally painful punishment was a massive removal of her staff. Anne ordered the immediate dismissal of Camilla's entire inner circle, including her aides, secretaries, public relations advisors, and loyal supporters. Those who had helped carry out her plans were removed from the palace within an hour and were not allowed to take any documents with them. In their place, Anne appointed staff members she had personally selected and trained herself. So, what do you think about Princess Anne's shocking revelation about Camilla? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe